No, we're going.
Okay, now we are.
Yeah. Yeah, we're live.
That was a little bizarre. But okay, so now I can see. I was going to wait and see how the actual document looks. I will say it's good to have the white screen staring at us, lighting us from the front, because otherwise we look like we're sitting in a basement.
We're a little dark because it's nighttime here in California on Sunday. But where you are, it's daytime, because I say it is, 2 p.m. on Thursday.
Pacific.
Because all good people live in California.
So that's roughly what our screen looks like in terms of the size. So we may want to zoom in a little bit more.
I don't think that we're going to be able to zoom in a little more, but we're going to try it just for you.
But like we have extra rooms, we don't have the comments pane. So.
Well, we have extra room there, but we don't have extra room with our video.
There we go.
Yeah,
perfect.
see?
Just like that. That's exactly how we need it.
I want to show layout.
Scooching, scooching.
Boop.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, so we are going to do a little something different today.
Yep.
And by a little something, I mean a lot of something different, to the point where neither of us really knows how we're going to do this. As I'm describing it, though, do you want to flip us over to October on our calendar? Because it's October, and we should be looking at the October pages.
Witness my death.
And look how cute they are! All those little fall images and little costumes.
Oh, oh my goodness.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, look at that.
All right.
I love that.
So now that we're on October,
Yeah.
this episode, I wanted to try something kind of radical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you already typed it in the description, so people who looked at the description before
There it is.
hitting the episode probably already know.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been a lot of discussions, questions, comments that end up looping back to ideas that are languages that are essentially, like, I'm just going to call them non-lingual, I guess is the best way to describe them, because they're not based on what we think of as words. They're based on other things, like on perception. Like, you know, the one that keeps coming up is the taste language, which is like, how would you actually do that?
Yeah.
But I decided that I wanted to explore and have you help me understand how such a language could be possible, because I know you've done, I think, one like this. Didn't you do one on color or something?
It was a very sophomoric attempt.
Okay.
In fact, here, we'll pull it up just for funsies.
Well, as you're doing that, though, like, what we're going to attempt to do is a language sketch based on color. Now we're going to go...
That's fine. No, everybody can see you. You're the important part.
But we're going to attempt to do a language sketch based on color. And I specifically chose color as the medium because, one, it's visual, so it's something that we could actually attempt to document on a screen. But two, and this is like really important, it's something that you could look at, you know, like hex codes or like you can look at some value to say, no matter what you perceive it as or I perceive it as, we can like go back to some code value and understand that this is its entry. And so like I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, so let's start with what a color language is not or should not be. This is what I did in, I don't know, 2000 or 2001, because I thought I was being clever. This is, by the way, is using a font called the Kansas University Linguistics Department IPA font, or Cool de Pas, as it used to be known. Or no, actually this might be IPAB, because I see capital D.
Well, it's IPAB with an exclamation point.
Yeah, yes, capital T and capital D. Cooldepa was awesome because it allowed you to type in all lower and uppercase letters and do a lot of IPA characters, so I would often use that one. But IPAB was a much more elegant font and much more user-friendly. Anyway, though, this was what I did. I created this language called the color language, and there were 4 colors: green, yellow, blue, and red, and there were phonemes associated with each color. All right? And they were assigned somewhat randomly. I don't think that there was any rhyme or reason to why what was what. But, letters begin with the glides, from which first two, what? Oh, and from which all related consonants are, I think that it should have been the colors begin with the glides, so they're all glides, in theory. Letters are then categorized in colors because the color green begins with a W in this language, yellow with blah, blah, blah. Plus, letters have different groupings with each other beyond color boundaries. Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand what's happening here. Like,
What? It's just a garbage language by a garbage language creator. You don't need to understand it. It's not any good. But like we're just following what it says in the document. So in the color language verb system, all verb radicals are of characters that are one color, and the endings are of letters of different colors. So you can already see there's going to be a very small number of verbs. So like if you have a green verb, then its past tense will be a yellow suffix, its future tense will be a blue suffix, and the red suffix will be conditional or uncertain
so was this
tense.
blending color and phonemes? Like this is
Yeah.
like, it's definitely like
This
movie is spoken out loud, Zito is spoken out loud. It's just they are sort of randomly and also associated with color.
Yeah, it was just kind of,
It's almost the opposite, not the opposite, but it's like taking the spirit of vowel harmony, where it's like an underspecified vowel. Here it's an underspecified suffix, and the color of the base determines what sound comes at the end, but it's because of its color.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, here you can see the yellow is past tense for green verbs, but blue is past tense for yellow verbs. And then red is past tense for blue verbs, and green is past tense for red verbs. So everything kind of skips over one another. I did something similar, or oddly enough, with sondive for star-crossed, except not with colors, with cases that didn't have any fixed meaning. And so, look at the way I write this. Reading through these examples, I'm sure you'll see a pattern emerging. Yeah, we see it. And then all consonants have natural pairs with vowels, or another way to say it is each consonant is a vowel 1 letter or a vowel 2 letter.
So just out of curiosity, do you remember, like, what was the apple? What was the division sign? The curly bracket.
Well, apple is what you get when you hit Alt-K on a keyboard. And that, I believe, is the voiceless pharyngeal fricative.
Oh, okay.
And like the curly bracket, I think that was ash.
Because obviously something got lost with the font not fully working in the document.
I think this is, I think that is some I think. Pretty sure. And so that's as far as I got, because I realized that what I was doing was both inherently stupid, and also it just there wasn't much further you could go. And furthermore, you didn't need any of the colors. They're really superficial.
Right.
Like, you can do everything just with the sounds and just kind of memorize arbitrarily what's going on. And so the whole thing was really pointless, and that's why it only got to 2 1/4 pages. So this is a way not to do a color language. But Jessie has it in her mind that she wants to do a good one, so you tell us how to do a good one.
Right. Well, okay. So first off, there are 2 problems right off the bat,
Yeah.
right? And the very first one is that usually when we do a language sketch, we open our language sketch document and we start filling in the details because we've got our template. We know roughly what information we're going to need, and we start doing it.
Yeah.
Wait, there is no template for something that's not going to use, phonemes.
Yeah.
And so that was the first problem, because it's like my first question is, if you're trying to do a language like a color language or any of the other, like some sort of sound based or something like a music language, do you first determine like these are the set number of X's that I'm going to use, like in our case the set number of colors? So like, do we essentially create a color palette for our language and say everything has to be from this palette, and then we're going to combine them in different ways to create things? Is that like a good place to start? Or like what, like I always get so confused when people talk about these non-lingual languages, because I'm like, I just like conceptually I really struggle with figuring out how they would come together.
Yeah, well, of course you have to figure out what your tokens are going to be, because so far we haven't found any languages that don't have tokens, and then you need to figure out what type of a language you're going to do, because at the very least you have a distinction between a more or less normal language and then a minimal language. A minimal language doesn't bother it doesn't bother a minimal language if it can't express every single concept.
Right.
And depending on the number of tokens you have, it might make sense to do that. So let's go ahead. Oh wait, we don't need this anymore. Sorry, I don't know why I keep. Let's go ahead and look at this. So this is color, or pigment, as we understand it. No matter what way you slice that thing up, you're going to get one of two things. You're either going to come up with like 6 colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 7, maybe 8, you include black. Or you are going to go another route and say color is defined by its mathematical number. So for example, we don't need grayscale. For example, white is defined as 6 Fs. This color is defined as FF0. Is that a 0?
Yeah.
I should have my glasses on. And while those two colors will be virtually identical to human beings, they are technically different.
Right.
And so this is the first question. Do you want to go with something that impressionistically a human might be able to work with, or something that, or basically work with technicalities?
Before I answer that, they've added 2 new things to the color options here at the end. What are these 2?
I added them.
I want to see these. What are these?
Well, this was just this. It's just that.
Oh, okay.
Because basically I couldn't find this. I thought they got rid of it. Like the only, it starts off as grayscale, and so I thought that's only what it was. So I had to put in a thing to add that, not realizing that you could just do that.
Sure.
And this was a totally different one where,
Fun. Okay.
Kind of thing.
Never mind. I thought it was like an update in Pages, and I'm like, I haven't seen this yet. I need to see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, believe it or not, you can buy little widgets they're called extensions, I think, or
Sounds.
Or panels. What are they called? Like, there's a very specific word for this type of thing. But anyway, you can add functionality to Apple products if you feel like it. Anyway. Okay.
All right. So I want to make it something that we can, as humans, functionally see potentially.
Okay.
Start distinguishing, because I feel like that's the only way to have a productive discussion, because otherwise we're just going to have a bunch of hex code things one after another,
Pretty
and it's
much.
going to be really difficult to be like, wait, which one did that refer to?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not to say that you can't do that. I'm just saying for what I had hoped in having a discussion about this, it's not going to be as helpful.
All right.
And so I would like to have essentially the number of tokens we can choose are going to, potentially be limited. But yeah, I would like to do, gosh, I mean, we could have some transitionary ones. I mean, we can get more than 6 because we can get transitionary ones, yeah.
Yes, but okay, and then something else we have to deal with right off the bat is basically, are we assuming a normal range of color vision?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we kind of have to, otherwise
Yeah.
it needs to be grayscale.
Yeah.
And because otherwise that's the only thing that we would be guaranteed. And so, yeah, and I feel like grayscale would again be difficult. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could do grayscale if we just want to like be fair
Well,
to everybody.
No, I don't think that keeps with the spirit of it. Basically, if you're trying to create a color language, then you go all in and just
Okay.
understand that it's only going to hit a certain percentage of the population. Same as when you're creating a spoken language.
That's true. That's true.
So then next we have to determine tokens. So we're going to do the following basically. We have to decide if we want to go maximal to the point that, well, let me just show you. All right, so we're going to start with number bullets, all right? And we're going to go with, what's something that's nice and big? How about this? We'll do apples. There's one.
Little plug. I
Mhm.
like that. It's interesting that it's like
There's
shading,
2.
shading.
And here, in order to, so that this thing can show up, there. 3. 4. There. 6. And yes, these are just approximates. 7. 8. 9. All right.
I feel like you can get a more purple. There we go.
10.
Uh-huh.
All right. So here's where we're going to stop, and we're going to pause for a moment. We will need about 15, I would say, of these to replicate a spoken language. And I think that we can do it. The question is if you want to. So like, for example, we could go, let's dark green.
Well, we could also pull in, like if you go down on like the yellow is
Light blue.
usually the best sort of brown.
That's right. We can have, actually, let's just stick with tan.
Okay,
And
and then
then-
also we don't have a gray. Like we've got
Yeah.
black. Usually, isn't red the best gray?
What's that? There's brown. Here, let's actually just go
Oh, there we go.
dead center. In fact, here, RGB sliders. Wait a minute. Here, this is what we want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Where are we right now?
don't think that worked. I don't think we were anywhere quite yet.
Okay, there's white, and now let's go to, let's say,
3 F's and 3 zeros.
1, 1, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, so here's the thing. This is a very minimal phonology, but it's enough of a phonology where you can just say, we're going to build a language, and these are going to be our phonemes. And you can be done.
I think somewhere, just as a really random factoid, I
Mm.
think it's green that we can distinguish the most shades of, just because the human eye developed, because we needed to see all the shades of green for all the different leaves and things, evolutionary kind of status. And so,
And I'm going to say blue.
and that's what I was like, in my head I was like, but for some reason I was also thinking it was blue, but I thought it was then green.
Okay.
So,
But here, so I'm gonna stop this right here. So this is a.
oh yeah, green is, human eye see green better than any other color in the spectrum. Okay, so I was right.
All right, so so I'm gonna stop here because I want to have you tease through what this means. No bullets. All right. So essentially, here we can stop. But what does this mean?
If we stop right here and say these are our tokens,
Yeah, so I mean,
Okay.
we've, even if you decide, oh, maybe like we should tune some of these colors so they're slightly more different, but whatever. Point is, we can distinguish all of these colors.
well, essentially we're going to then be treating them as phonemes, and like as we create concepts, like if we want to say the word apple,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to decide I want it to be red, magenta, light blue, and like
Okay.
you're going to have some sort of like you're going to have some sort of pattern associated with each one, in the same way that we have patterns of sounds associated with words. It's just we're going to be using these instead. We could also choose to separate them and have consonants versus vowels, right? Like where you're going to use more of one than the other.
Yeah.
Where, for instance, if you say, okay, the black, white, and red are the easiest to see, so we're going to use those more frequently than anything else. And so the other ones are going to be, sort of grouped as, quote, I guess as the consonants. Another thing that you could think about is saying that there are structural restrictions where, for instance, you can't have, I don't know, one of the shades of blue by the other, like you have to separate it out, and like you've got to have some sort of diversity.
Why is it doing this?
I don't know.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, because it was tapped over when you started.
Okay. What I'm gonna call this is faux
Yeah.
no tactics.
Ah, phonotactics. Yes, I love it.
Okay, what's the problem?
Besides the fact that it's all arbitrary.
Yeah, aside from that, there's one big problem here, and can you spot it?
I feel like I'm doing something wrong on a test.
Well, it's just basically taking this to its logical conclusion. All right, what did we do to illustrate these colors?
We use them.
In what?
Well, we used them right here in the font.
Okay, but like with what? How do we see what color they are?
With our eyes.
Mm-mm. How do you, what are they on the screen?
I really would love for you to just tell me what you're getting at.
Seriously?
They're apples.
They're apples, exactly. And that is the big arbitrary, like, what part of this. So this is kind of like coming back to the color language I did. the colors were assigned to phonemes, right? And that association was arbitrary. In this case, the form, the carrier, the bearer of the color is totally arbitrary. So in fact, if we did this, we actually could just create a full spoken language where we did decide on vowels and consonants, assign them arbitrarily to these colors, and then just basically built a spoken language. And so that is the issue with, I guess the question is, does this achieve the idea of a true color language?
If you had asked me what to do with deciding on the tokens for the colors, obviously for me these apples are just stand-ins to represent these are the colors that we have.
Sure.
So to me that's not actually a token of the language, and it's not actually meant to represent anything in the language. It's just there to show color. I would have just used little boxes or something, like where it's like devoid of.
Okay, but then is that what you would do with it? Like, ultimately you'd have to decide on some form, right?
Sure. But like, I don't know how it would be used.
Oh, okay.
It could be used through dyeing a rope, and you just dye each little segment the color you want it for what you need. To give secret messages.
Okay.
And this is also, by the way, this is
All right.
difficult because this is different from, I think what's really another pitfall of these kinds of languages is that you could very easily fall into a code or a cipher mentality when that's not, what you want. Because it's like, thinking of like Morse code or something where it's like all taps and beeps and, long holds versus short bursts of sound. But it's just a code for whatever language you're encoding in Morse code. And this is not meant to be that way. And so I would think if you're doing a color language, the whole goal is to make it as diversely usable as possible.
Okay. That is, so I think that's where this is the important thing. In other words, it would have to be non-standard, I guess, in order to be interesting, right?
Like anything could be used, like whether
Yes.
it's a rope, a string, you have a set of markers and you just kind of
Yeah.
and draw a line or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. The one thing though is, as we are designing this, the language is, I'm going to say, artificially linear.
Yeah.
So with a spoken language, the spoken languages are like naturally linear, and they kind of have to be, because they're bounded by time, and so that's the thing that's putting linearity on spoken languages. A color language doesn't necessarily need to be linear.
No, and in fact, like I could imagine a tie-dye kind of situation where you do a t-shirt, but of course at that point it's going to get messy in terms of like each round could be like a word or a sentence, because it's like it's the pattern of the colors moving outward, but like at some point it's going to run into another one, and so it's like the linearity of it all provides a sort of organization to keep it in order. That doesn't mean it has to be done that way, and it doesn't mean that you couldn't be creative in the way it gets done. But even like in the way that I've seen a lot of people do color languages or attempt to show them, it ends up being something that's linear, even if it's in a different shape, because they like, for instance, say, oh, it's spiral, but really what that is a line spiralizing. And so you still have a starting point and an ending point, and it's still, you follow the line, even though it's not a line, a horizontal line across a page. And so like, I think that the way that humans operate, it ends up being more linear.
Can we try to do something different?
No.
Here, wait. I think we can come back to this and go back and forth, because I think that there's there are a bunch of really, really cool things that we can do with this one. Let's try to create a non-linear color language as well.
Language.
It's how you measure a language.
I like it.
The
A language.
Language. Is it a gauge or a gauge? And is it a gauge or a gauge?
Well, it's a gauge.
Gauge.
I was being silly because of the aw.
Yeah.
But like if you're just saying the word, it's gauge. So language.
What about gauge? You don't accept gauge?
I mean, I accept it, but to me, it just sounds like you mispronounced it.
Oh,
Like to me, it's gauge with a j.
And you don't have gauge
No,
or gauge?
no. I have gauze.
Look, okay, so they say gauge 100%, but
Yeah.
look at this. Long switch.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I would accept other pronunciations. I would. All right, but you know what? If Wiktionary says it, then I'll accept that. All right. I want to start by copying this. And imagining that here. Okay, so this is not, this is a permutation, not combination. So, and for math people, I sure hope I got that right. I'm gonna fill this with advanced gradient fill.
We're gonna need all sorts of advanced. Maybe I should have just picked 2 colors.
Okay, there we go. Let's put that in the middle. And we're going to make this one red. We're going to make this one red.
I was like, that did not want to.
This one. Were you calling this magenta?
Yeah.
Oh, I was calling that pink.
Oh, pink then.
All right, pink.
Ooh.
Yeah, and we're gonna make this cyan. Okay,
That's nice.
and we're gonna do it like this because basically I want to emphasize that this is not ordered.
Did you do it that way, or is there like some sort of marble?
Yeah.
Can-
Oh wow.
Oh, fun! There we go. Yeah, put it at an edge. That really like throws off everything. Oh, I like that. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Makes it look very spherical.
Yeah. So here we're going to stick with non-standard representation. You need that. But since this is a combination, right? Suddenly these 3 colors by themselves are locked into meaning apple, and they can't mean anything else. So it's not like magenta, red, cyan can mean something different.
It's okay.
So here, let's put the.
But that's not as much of a problem because, like in spoken language, that would be a problem if you were locked in with 3 out of 15 phones in any order representing something specific. Because here, with it being nonlinear, you could imagine that sphere can take on as many colors, so it's not like it gets longer. The same size of sphere could have 20 colors in it.
It could.
But yeah, that is like you are going to have, I think, fewer roots overall just because.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to, like at a certain point, it'll also just get very difficult.
Very muddy.
Yeah. It's like let's say that you had one word that was like, this green, this cyan, yellow, orange, purple, and brown, and then another one that was this green, this blue, and then yellow and orange and purple and brown. I doubt you'd be able to consistently pick out the difference between those. So you would need to...
I mean, you can't consistently pick out gauge from gauge.
It's hard for me to gauge what is correct. So seriously, you've never said that?
Like gauge, that's... If I say it without the j, then it's really just like, it just came out that way. It's not because I think that's... Like, and if you played it back for me, I'd be like, ooh, I had a little slip of the tongue there. Like, I would think it was a little whoopsie-doo on my part.
You have no idea. This is making my my life so much simpler. Because I...
Never knew how to gauge things.
Well, yeah, like, and every time I would try to avoid using the word when I was speaking out loud because I didn't know what the correct form was. It was like that funky lowercase g. It was like any of the four seemed like they could be right.
Interesting. So you apparently didn't grow up with a rain gauge in your backyard.
No.
Because then you would have heard it a lot.
And nobody
And also
ever
an
said a
oil
rain
gauge.
gauge?
No.
Gauge?
No. It's a rain gauge.
I feel like there should be some sort of...
Now,
phony
learning how
in
to
between
spell
ja
it
and ja.
was a whole different thing. So it's like, oh, that's not the... Because there is a G-A-G-E in English, which is not a gauge. And so, like, figuring out that those were two separate words was
What the
like,
heck is that?
Well, that a valued object deposited as a guarantee of good faith, a pledge, especially a
What?
glove. And so, yeah, it's like figuring out that.
Was this just something that was common in Missouri? You'd leave a glove of yours and then come back and pay full money for whatever you took?
I'm going to guess that this verb as like a deposit of good faith, I'm going to guess that shows up somewhere in the Bible, in one of the older translations. Because that probably would have been when I saw it and assumed that that meant like the rain gauge in my backyard, and I was like really, really confused.
Challenge to combat. I wonder if it's related to engage.
Oh, I bet it is. It has to be.
Oh, look, it's just a variant spelling of gosh.
But yeah, so like trying to figure out the whole gauge situation with how do you spell it? Does it have a U? Does it not have a U? Where does the U go? Because you don't say the U anyway. It's not like it affects anything. I love that that's the only translation offered.
That is Luhan. Oh boy. That is Luhan Sikas.
And now I'm never going to be worried about my words being too long in any conlang I ever create. Because I'm going to be like, Finnish has a longer word, I'm sure.
It's a gauntlet.
Done. See, gauntlet, 2 syllables, and they've got taista luhansi. I'm not worried anymore.
Hey, taiste Luhan Sikas. I love it.
That's amazing. Okay, sorry. We can go back to colors. I just remember being very confused with the whole gauge situation when I was younger.
I love it when like
I had to write it.
The people that write up phonetics are just so serious about it that they do all that.
It's way too much.
It is. I love this. It's like, oh no, they'll think it's 2 vowels if we don't put the little less than a vowel sign in there.
Why is it that your derogatory voice and your Missouri voice are so similar, David?
It was just the people that were entering Finnish.
Is that how they sound?
That's how they sound.
Anyway, let's get back to colors.
You don't want to see the full declension?
You have no idea how much I want to just stare at Finnish examples all day, if for no other reason than to like be like, oh, that like 3 or 4 syllable word I just created that I was like, oh no, that's a long word for this concept. But it's like, but that's just how the cookie crumbled. And now I'm like, I don't care.
Look at this.
There's Finnish.
You can't do anything with 1 gauntlet in Finnish. If you're going to do something with...
But it's going to be with 2 gauntlets.
It has to be. It has to be 2.
Also, you can't instruct with them.
Yeah.
Just with 2, not with 1.
Taisteluhansikkainen. Oh my. Taisteluhansikkainen. Kainen. Oh boy. Oh, they're gonna be destroying us on the stream for our pronunciation.
I hope so.
Like how I said our there.
Yeah, no, I like how you threw me under the bus when I did not.
Okay, so, but here was the idea. Let's say, okay, this is just
That's gorgeous.
this is just an example image.
But also, can we talk about some problems already popping up?
Go for it.
In this one specifically.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna.
Yeah, start from one again.
Okay.
In this one specifically, because it is a gradient, we're getting purple, and purple's not one of the colors.
Yeah.
And so, like,
So
that is a problem.
And so what that means is that even though we started with this, we probably have to get rid of it. We probably have to reduce the number of colors.
It would really have to be, because anything that could be gotten through combining two others, and so we would only be able to have white, black, red, green,
Well,
blue.
I mean, I think that we could have everything at the poles, couldn't we? No.
Well, no,
we
because
could-
yellow and blue would make green, and so you can't have yellow in there. And yellow and red would make orange, but orange isn't at a pole. But like,
Yeah.
having both yellow and blue and then having green too would be a problem. Also having, I guess cyan is different enough, but I would be concerned if you had some sort of combo of white, blue, and green that you would end up getting cyan.
Well, let's get rid of gray. We're gonna get rid of brown. We're gonna get rid of tan. Certainly get rid of this version of blue. Yeah, we'll probably want to get rid of orange, and purple, dark green. And we're left here.
CMYK, what does the K stand for?
Huh?
CMYK, what does the K stand for? Is it cyan, magenta, yellow?
Kurt.
Can we get Kurt in here? Can you tell me what color that is?
He only comes when you've mastered all the other colors.
The K is key.
Oh.
What?
It's
It's the black. It's like everything
It's the cyan, magenta, yellow key.
put together. But I feel like CMYK would at least give us those plus a white.
So you
Because
think
you would end up getting red by putting other things together. Because CMYK, you can get all the colors, but you can get all the colors with RGB.
does that work though? Let's try.
Ooh, I don't know.
Let's try to get red by doing.
Well, I guess RGB is the same because it's really RGB plus black and white.
Try to get the same by doing yellow and magenta. I don't really see a lot of red in there.
But that's gorgeous.
It is here. Like,
No, yeah.
yeah, we're not getting red.
It's because they have to be at full strength. And so you're never going to end up getting a straight up red unless they're at full strength. And in a gradient, it's never going to be mixed at full strength. And so we're safe with RGB and CMY
Okay.
because it would only be in full strength combos.
So should we stick with these?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So we've already created something else, and this is. I'm going to do
Well, this one obviously means LangTime.
since it's simpler. Well, shouldn't LangTime be? Well, this is more us.
Yeah, this is David at Jesse's. It's pink to. The only way you can get orange in this scheme is to mix it with yellow.
Yeah. So then, how about?
Aww. I love it.
All right. And then now, what I want to show you. is how about, okay, let's do,
Oh my God, as you're thinking through this, I'm imagining a scenario where somebody runs with this idea and can dye their own cloth and creates an entire quilt that's actually like a message, because each quilt block is essentially a word of the language dyed in the colors that it needs to be dyed, and then it's all put together in a quilt. That would be awesome.
here, I've got an idea that I want to run by you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Let's do green.
All right, and now, oh, I'm sorry, these are supposed to be lowercase. This is taking unnecessary time, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay.
All right, so in this permutation of the language, we're going to have fewer combinations possible.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be potentially better to not have plural distinguished at all? To save a red-yellow combo as something else?
I mean, I suppose. I was just thinking it might be useful to have the pronouns and then.
I mean, because having yellow as a plural marker could be helpful. Then we would just need to make sure that no nouns had yellow in them, and then every noun could have yellow added as a plural marker. And so, like, that could definitely be an option. Do you like that?
Say it one more time.
If we had yellow as a plural marker, right? Because you had all the plural pronouns being yellow or having yellow.
I did. That was arbitrary, but it's something that, you know.
Right, but then what that would mean is if it is a plural marker, you wouldn't want any of your nouns to. Oh, mind, it's just moving things all over. You need to change the arrangement.
Right.
And make it freestyle, like it can cover anything. Because right now it's trying to keep them separated. What I meant by that was, like, at that point you would want to make sure your nouns didn't have yellow in the singular form, because adding yellow would be essentially how you would make things plural.
Yeah, I know, but it's I think I don't like that for the same reason that you just suggested. There are so few combinations to give something.
Oh, actually, wait, like, this is where you could get, though, into the utility of having a plural marker separate, because if yellow on its own is the plural marker and it doesn't combine, that leaves all the different combinations possible, and the yellow by itself is a plural marker.
Could do that, or could just do this.
And, like, have some sort of, like, duplicative, oh, that's fun. Like, we are happy.
Yeah. Why is it going in the center? You know where I want you to be. You know where I want you to be.
Because it's trying to line up with everything. Interesting, I like that.
Yeah. So, but here's kind of the idea. It doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily ordered. I put this in front because you wouldn't be able to see it if it was in back. And so you have to make sure that things are visible. But it's like, if you don't have fixed representation in terms of form, then it could be anything, and you could actually end up doing some really radical things, like, you know, I mean, we're limited right now by what we can do in a word processor, but
I almost need to do this in like a keynote
I wanted
slide, because then each layout is sort of a blank page.
I wanted a different one. And then,
Whoa, that's fun.
and then, actually I want it to be a little bit thicker. And we're going to make this, is this just going to destroy it? No, it's not
Ooh,
perfect.
nice.
Let's do,
I feel like the design you created up there looks like a cosmic peach or something.
which,
The red with the
which I would want to eat.
cosmic one.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so both of these would mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then it would just be a matter, like, if you wanted to do something like this, decide on what grammar at all you might want to have. And then basically how many combinations there are that are distinguishable, and start assigning them to whatever basic concepts you have. Like whatever basic concepts you decide on.
Is there any way, like, at the end of the day, when you're deciding on the grammar of it, at some point, doesn't the human mind still come back to some degree of linearity? Because, like, at some point, you've got to decide, you know, like when you're thinking in terms of subject, verb, object, or like if you wanted to be able to say, I ate the apple, or I ate an apple, not the apple ate me. Like, that one, I guess, is more like context would be like, well, duh, we know which one is which. But, you know, if I wanted to say
Well,
something.
consider, like, if it didn't matter, you just need the concept of I, you need the concept of eating, you need the concept of apple in there. Now imagine you use those colors to color the image of a person who is holding their stomach and is clearly in distress. And so the idea is that, you know, maybe this person ate an apple, maybe this apple was bad and it gave them, you know, bad stomach, and then it's like, it suggests, you know, okay, they ate the apple, but also kind of the apple ate them, you know?
If you're adding extra context to it. Because now coloring in a shape that has meaning, where the shape of the person holding their stomach is meaningful, that would have to be part of the language.
Not part of the language. It's because, again, non-standard representation. We're going with these abstract shapes right now because that's mainly what we can do, but you could do whatever you want with it.
This goes back to my brain just breaks down and goes, what? Because I'm envisioning also, like, not just, okay, I ate an apple, but then, like, I'm going to tell you a whole story about this apple and how I went apple picking and got this apple, and then I ate it. Then I got sick, because, you know, you shouldn't just pick things off trees and eat them.
You don't even need to go that far. Let's...
Well, I know, but, like, thinking, because with some degree of linearity, you have something to follow, and it's like, here's all the components. But if you have 64 components, of like trying to put together these pieces of the story, and like they're not in any sort of linear order, like wouldn't it just all get jumbled?
No. I mean, but also that could partially be the point. I'm going to try something here. And I don't know if it will work because I don't know if you can actually do this with text. I want this to be bold.
Advanced gradient.
That's right.
Check
And
that
so,
out.
going to do this. Let's make it a little bit bigger.
Half of the images are like, I don't know what's happening.
I should have grouped them together. That's fine. Alright, so now call that
Black and pink.
We should also let's do it so that. Alright. And so suddenly you just have a statement. You're using the fact that you're using another language to say something, in this case something totally contradictory to what's being represented with the color. And that's just the point. That's just how you do it, you know?
Doesn't have to be contradictory. Sometimes you can be sad that you're feeling happy.
This is true. Again, it's up to interpretation. But the point is, like, there's no, in terms of what we're doing with the language that we're creating, there's no grammar there. There's no anything there. There's no linearity. There's nothing. It's just
And so
a
if a
fact.
person were to do this, really all they'd be doing is creating a glossary of combinations. Like, that's it. Because anything can be in any order.
Well, potentially. That's clearly the direction that I am pushing it in. However, that is not the only direction that it could be pushed. So, I'm just grouping these, make it easier so they can move by themselves. This is just one option, but there are other options. For example, like anytime you make some sort of a change, that change can be meaningful. So like right now we were doing, like, for example, the the kind of spiral radiant thing, but like this is also a gradient. That could be a choice that means something, using one versus the other. There's also linearity here. And so, for example, this could actually be meaningful. We did permutation, not combination. You could do combination and say, all right, we're going to have sequences and they can go in different orders, but for example, like blue, black, pink, it has to be in that order. And you decide on what your direction is at the outset, kind of like you do with Middle Egyptian hieroglyphs. You have to, it's like they can face any way they want, but once you decide on a direction, they all have to be facing the same way. You could do the same thing with this and say, all right, we've decided the directionality for this is top to bottom. And so it's like, all right, then this is sad. If you reverse it, it could mean something completely different. So anytime there's any type of choice like that, you can build that in and make it meaningful.
But that's going up to the top page, which we're not on, which is the option to have linearity. Sort of artificial linearity.
It's halfway in between this and this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because up above, because they're not actually mixing, we can have more tokens.
Yeah.
Tokens. Whereas here, we still have to be sensitive to the color permutations that happen at edges, the gradients.
Yeah, and you can, and because like you can mix like this, there's like a bunch of things you could do. For example, these are gradients. They don't necessarily need to be. They could just be like right in a row. They could be, you can make flags and banners out of them. You can actually make them so they look quite linear if you want. You just don't have to. Here, you can't let them mix. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of variety in terms of things that you could do with that linearity, you know? Something that you could do that would be very, very cool. So let's say that you have, okay.
I actually, though, just like to take a step back, though. Like, I think you could be completely linear about this and have mixing at the edges to some degree.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because then it's like, it's essentially the same way of saying, well, in a protoform, this wasn't a D, but now it suddenly is, even though we still had a proto D that was proto D, but like we got this one because it was next to a voice thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just because the original form wasn't intended to have brown, suddenly we have yellow and purple kind of mixing together at the edges of the squares or whatever. And so brown sort of appears, but it's not actually a full, like, it's not a protoform. So like going back to like a rope dyeing situation, right? Where it's like this much of the rope is dedicated to each token, and where the edges mix, things happen, like, you know, phonological processes kind of things, right? The colors mix, but they don't actually affect the tokens. Like, so you end up getting mixing without it being meaningful.
You could do both. So like it would be really easy to like do this just as long as it wasn't like an even gradient, but there was very clearly, you know, sections of this, and this. But you could also do something that was like really, really, really simple, and I think that the best way to actually show it is a table. So let's.
No, I don't. How would you keep track of all this? Very difficult.
The best way, in my experience, is to assign everything variables. Sorry, let's delete rows. Assign everything variables, like, you know, just English name variables, and then just list them in the dictionary that way. That's what I did with my visual language, X. Every single icon that I created had a name in English, and then I just searched by that.
Because essentially on the color language side, you would actually put apple under red, magenta, cyan, so that way you could search if you're like, I have these 3 colors in a row, so
Right.
I'm going to go look up red because it's the first color.
Yeah, now it would be really cool if in a word processor you could search by color and say, get things in a red spectrum, but,
Yeah.
you know. Oh, whoops. It'd have limited utility for the average.
Did you mean the border or the fill?
I meant the fill. Thank you.
I'm being very helpful.
No, I like that. Yeah. Sometimes you need that. Okay, I know that's not the exact same yellow, but just stick with it for the time being.
But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's like,
Oh, it could be any.
it's within
yeah.
the realm of that, and so as long as it's any yellow that's recognizably yellow and not, say, orange or some other variation of it, then it's fine.
Okay, so let's say, and you know what, I'm going to add a row above, and I'm just going to say that color fill, no fill. This is okay, and now this is red, right? But we're going to angle to, I guess that's 360 or 0, sure. And let's do what I think it's going to do.
Well, it's making it go that way. What do you want it to do? Because it's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. No, I guess I wanted advanced gradient fill because this is what I wanted. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then just choose the same colors. I think I got to go up here. What? Oh, shit. Oh, I said a bad word. Sorry. Let's do this. Make this one yellow. And then, oh, So help me. Do you see how it's defying me?
I do.
There we go. Okay. That was all I was trying to do. That was all I was trying to do. But you see what I mean? So here we just have the basic color set, but we've just decided that past tense or present tense is just
Basic.
bold, basic, past tense starts to get gray at the end. In fact, why not? Let's just go nuts. Future tense, you know what I'm doing? Do you have a sense of what I'm going to do? There we go.
Gonna reverse it. Go to white.
That's right. That didn't do anything.
Just not happy with you today. One more time, David.
There we go. All right.
I think this needs to be reversed. The present needs to be in the middle, and then that way it's from dark to light.
Okay.
Ooh! Did you see what I just did there?
Yes, I did. Okay, we can do this.
Because it's a spectrum then.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Everybody's gonna go nuts for a minute, but don't worry.
Can't you just drag and drop the...
No, just let me show you what happens when you do that.
No, but if you drag the whole row, like pick it up, should be able to do that. Weird. Anyway, okay.
I agree with you. Okay, and then
Alright, now we gotta flip-flop the dark gradients.
yes. Is there?
I think you just do that, can't you? No? No. Okay, never mind.
Wait, maybe you can do it, but only with.
There we go. Yeah, one at a time. There we go. I feel so much better about that.
Yeah, and now you're kind of leaning into the linearity, by the way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So this is kind of like.
That's what I do, Eileen.
Yeah. So this is like. Come on, Eileen.
Okay,
So
anyway, go on.
this is like Middle Egyptian, where you are leaning into the linearity and you basically just declare in some fashion a linear direction before you know at the beginning of your document or whatever. I did the same thing actually with the hexagonal writing system for the Indigenes. Like it could go in any direction you wanted. There was just a single character that was like, it's just two lines like this and then a line like this. And it was basically like, this is the start. And so you knew that was the direction.
I think we should celebrate.
I think we should too. It's pretty cool.
This little feet here. One for you. What's up?
Oh, F-E-A-T.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were looking at cute little feet somewhere. It's like, where? I want to see them.
On our screen. Alright.
Cheers. Oh my god! Oh my god! It's the worst thing that's ever happened with Cmyk. Well,
I'm gonna get down and get it.
Are you sure?
Well, I have to, otherwise you're going to try to get it and push both of us out of our chairs.
Maybe it's not the worst thing. I think one time I ejected the Cmyk from the wrapper, right?
You did, and it landed in cat litter.
Oh my god, that was the
And
worst thing.
you brushed it off and ate it anyway, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, David, that's gross."
Well, it must have been clean.
Now we're gonna cheers. Such a wild one, you.
Cmyk, make sure it gets in your mouth. Trademark.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
from like a design perspective in terms of like if somebody were wanting to do this sort of an artistic venture, I 100% understand why the other page of information is this sort of nonlinear approach is like would be useful, because like I mean you could knit something with a message, you could crochet, you could draw, you could tie-dye, you could like literally anything that you can infuse color, and that's amazing. But it doesn't make sense to my brain in terms of actually conveying a message. The linear one, I'm like, okay, I see how this could come together. And so the linear one, but again, like essentially what I'm doing is just substituting sounds for colors. And so like I don't know if that's cheating, because like I'm essentially just saying, well, these colors are associated with these meanings in this order, in the same way that sounds are, even though that's not how color works.
Okay, so first to come back to this nonlinear one. You know that usually the way that we resolve these things about who does what to whom, it's usually animacy. So like, that's the case with these, inverse languages, right? You don't ever have to say who does what to whom. You just assume that the one that should be doing the thing to the other is doing it. And then you have some sort of a marker of surprise to let you know when it's the opposite of that. When they're the same level of animacy, yes, there is a default, but even so, usually context helps to supply.
But if you're thinking, all right, here's a giant canvas the size of our wall, and I want to tell a whole story. But I'm going to start at this random place here with these pieces of information. Then I'm going to go over here and color over here. And then I'm going to go color over here. Like, if it's not linear, that can happen. And like the pieces of information that are needed to tell the full thing don't even have to be connected. Like the subject could be here, the verb could be here. Like it doesn't even have to be connected if it's not linear.
Yeah.
And so at what point is that's not helpful at all?
Well, that's the thing, because I know that you said that there was no kind of grammar, but we did build in some grammar. The things that they're touching.
I was not arguing that we didn't build in some grammar. I was saying, did that force it into some degree of linearity? Because you're forcing it to say, well, we have to have something that's recognizable as a unit. And so you either have to stack them, or they need to be touching, or they need to, like, there has to be some linearity imposed on it. You can't just abstract paint a canvas and be like, you have all the pieces of information figured out.
Well, consider a novel. The way you experience it is linear. But if you think about an actual book, the entire story is happening at once.
Okay.
Because all of the information is contained in the book. You can read any page at any point in time. So like, the whole thing is happening at once. We just experience it in a linear way.
Right. But like, that's what you have to do when you're putting in some sort of grammar on this, is giving it some, even a tiny bit of linearity to make it make sense.
I guess, but do you really think that saying something like "we are happy" it's basically a single idea?
Okay.
Like there's the concept of linearity doesn't even apply there.
Okay.
In terms of the semantics, right?
All right. But if I had a red dot over here, a red dot over here, and a pink and yellow one over here, I wouldn't know to connect those.
Unless there was something in the logic of the picture that suggested it. Like that could be cool, you know?
Okay.
Like, imagine a triangular canvas and you just cap off the corners. You have two red corners down here, or two red corners up top, and then like the fading yellow to pink corner at the bottom. And then just in the middle is just like an image of like say the two of us and Julian.
And so, but that's one message or one idea for one canvas.
Yeah.
So you can't ever have more than one idea on one canvas. Otherwise, it would get so muddled that you wouldn't know if this red dot goes with the happy or if it goes with the sad. Because there's also a green dot, which means somebody else is either happy or sad.
Not necessarily. Let me pull up. This is a very famous painting that many people will know. This is Guernica by Picasso. Let me see. Try to. Seriously, like, is there like?
There's like an arrow up there. Can you? Oh no,
Oh
that
God.
really just made it worse almost.
Okay. And we're going to go to tools, we're going to go to size, we're going to go to large and get the biggest one that we can. How big is that?
That one already looks better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me your cookies. Is it cutting up the bottom?
It is. Actually, if you just leave it on the screen like that was honestly, I think,
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay.
better.
So this is a story, right? But it's not linear. It's bounded because it has to be. It's bounded by the canvas, right? But all this is just telling the story of something that happened. It's telling it with images. You could do the same thing with words. And you could put them all over the place. You could replace kind of like each of these elements with words or word descriptions. And they would only be bounded by, I guess, arbitrarily by whatever you put them by. Like, imagine if you just had, concepts like, pain, fear, uncertainty, death, and you just kind of like colored around where you saw it.
But at what point are the pictures doing the conveyance of meaning?
Well, that's the next step. Now imagine stripping away all of the imagery, and instead it's just a purely abstract canvas. This is too linear. Give me something where it's just like here we go. Even that has a person in it and a
Look at the guitar.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a piano up there.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. This is perfect. No, it's even like a place, isn't it?
What about this one?
There we go. This is perfect right here. Now imagine that just all of these are just sentences or ideas or phrases. Like some of them are feelings and emotions, some of them are actually subjects. Like some of them are nouns, Now imagine that like these three red things were actually our first person pronoun. And there's three of them, so the question is like, is this we? Is this just I several different times? And you don't really know, because it's kind of just a massive confusion. And then the question is like, okay, well, does it apply to like this meaning right here? Does this one, or does it not?
So at what point, though, would you say that this is not useful for conveying information ever? Because, like, no one's going to tease it apart in the same way. And I mean, sure, like, in one way that's beautiful, but in another way, like, if you're trying to get a specific message across, this is not the way to do it.
It's not necessarily conveying information, it's conveying ideas. There's a really nice... I'm just going to pull up the lyrics. There's a song by Radiohead that was basically like kind of not like a found poem, but basically it was just they were kind of writing down things they heard. They also just found like a random book of things, and so these lyrics are also wrong. I'm almost certain that the lyrics are wrong. Let me see if this one is different. No way.
Do you have the lyrics wrong?
Greenplastic.com will have it for sure. There we go. Yeah, these guys have it right. Okay. So it's just like there's nothing specific in this song. Or it's just like random things that are said that are just conveying an idea. Who's in a bunker? Who's in a bunker? Women and children first, and the children first, and the children. They just got like this repetition that just gives you an idea. I laugh until my head comes off, swallow until I burst, and so on. I have seen too much. I haven't seen enough. You haven't seen it. And then this is one of the most. This is why I knew the lyrics were wrong, because this is one of the most brilliant forms of enjambment that I've seen in lyrics, because he sings here, I'm allowed, and there's a pause, and so you think like, oh, it's a very pathetic statement, but then he follows up with everything all of the time, and it kind of like totally changes the interpretation. But this is kind of like the same type of thing. You could say like, all right, is this a solitary statement, or does it actually form something with this? You can do the same thing with imagery, right? And neither interpretation is really wrong. It's just a matter of, you know, you deciding which one is right based on your experience of experiencing the discourse, you know?
That could be a lot of confusion.
Well, yeah.
But isn't that like not great for a language if you're trying to...
It depends what your purpose for the language is. It depends what your purpose is. Like, if you're trying to create a nuts and bolts, can you pass me the salt language? No, it's not super useful. If you're trying to create something different, if you're trying to create a statement, it could be very, very useful, you know?
Okay. My brain likes the linearity. I've also never understood Picasso. Every time I see his art, I'm like, how? Why do people pay for this? I don't get it.
Well, that's the thing with abstract art, just in general, not just Picasso, but abstract art. There's like this invisible line, right? And it's like, up to a certain point, you're like, there is something here, there's a message here, and I see it. And suddenly, like, you pass that invisible point, and it's just like, that's just a stick figure.
But like, I would rather spend money on the splatter painting, because that at least is like fun, bright colors.
See, you get
Fun.
something from it, right?
But like Picasso, I'm like, I don't get it. Yeah. I think it's the over-exaggerated line drawings of people. And I don't like the abstract people imagery. I guess maybe that's where I fall apart.
Yeah.
Because then it turns ugly to me. That's what it is. Whereas paint splatters, well, that's just fun. Who doesn't want a little paint splatter?
Well, you know, it's like the people say there's no accounting for taste, and it's because like sometimes just somebody's style really, really turns you off, which is why like I just can't listen to Creedence Clearwater Revival or Queen.
God, I love CCR. You know that though.
I know, and everybody on earth loves Queen, and I can recognize that they're very, very talented and good, just as long as I don't have to listen to it. It's just like, man, if I wanted to listen to Broadway, I would go listen to Broadway, and I don't. Anyway, so.
But see that, like, totally be on the wall.
I think it's too many colors for me.
I mean, I agree. If they had held back a little bit, not tried to put so many sentences on one canvas.
You know, like, because we did a total, like, breeze through of a museum in Aarhus, right? And we went through an abstract section. And I was, first of all, pleased that we mostly jived on what we liked, but it was like, it was the type of thing where it's like, they're not depicting anything, but you could go through and say, you know what, that's really cool, that, no. You know?
Yeah. Picasso's always going to be on my not cool side, sorry.
He's got some good stuff. What do you think about this guy, by the way?
I find it visually appealing, but again, like, I would rather, like, if I want...
The Stale movement.
If I wanted something like that in the house, I would just, like, paint it myself, you know?
Which I think I would be cool with. This is cool.
That's kind of fun.
I like it.
All right, anyway, so now we're just digressing.
No.
I mean, that looks like one of my little doodle pages in my notebook.
Beautiful.
It doesn't look like something I would pay for. But yeah, no, the colors there are gorgeous.
All right.
All right, so moving off those.
All right.
Back to the gauntlet.
Yeah.
All right.
But hopefully that gives you an idea of, like, you can jump off in so many different directions, right? If you're doing something like this. It kind of just depends what you want to do. Let me see if I can, yeah. So, like...
'Cause this one, like, we haven't really spent a lot of time up here, but, like, I feel like it's more understandable in terms of coming from a language creation, from what we've been doing, from using phonemes. I feel like it's more understandable just because it's like, I think it's understandable to say, okay, red, magenta, cyan is apple. But if you do, or pink, sorry, you can change that to pink because that's, I think, what you had changed it to below.
Yeah.
If you did, you know, cyan, pink, red, maybe that means chair.
Yeah.
And if you did pink, red, cyan, that could mean, you know, water. And so, like...
By the way, for apple, we should have done, like, red, yellow, green, right?
That would have made a lot more sense.
A lot more sense.
Yeah, but, like, I was just pulling colors that hit my eyes first. And so, like, that... I think just sort of makes a certain amount of sense coming from the typical putting phonemes together kind of way.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, yeah, I get it, and you would just need to keep them. However the line of colors is written or conveyed, it needs to be in that order. Whether it's going, you know, right to left, left to right, in a circle, spiraling out like this as little, like, spikes coming out, but you start here and do this spike or whatever. I mean, like, there are so many ways you could actually do it, but at the end of the day, it's still coming out to where's the starting point, where's the end point, and that means something.
Let's talk about something here that I think is going to feel a lot more familiar to conlangers. Because, of course, one of the super important things in designing this type of language is figuring out exactly which colors you're going to use. Because it's very important that they be distinguishable. And then... So I introduced this idea, right, which is cool. However, there's a problem with it that has a solution that I think should feel very familiar to conlangers. So let's come up with 3 different verbs. So, like, go for it.
Well, do we want to do eat since we already have apple?
Sure, let's do that. Okay, so eat and colors for that.
Can you scroll up just so I can have my list? Thank you. Gray, orange.
Really?
Just colors. David's not a fan. Well, what do you want him to be?
Hold on a sec. I don't know if you knew this, but the international, like, colors for eating are red and yellow.
Well, then there we go. Do red, yellow.
Oh, but, like, we can do gray and orange if you want.
I'm not invested in the color choices. Like, I'm happy
Really?
with either form. Red, yellow, gray, orange. Gray, orange can be something else.
All right.
Like, I'm not invested in the sense that I have to have it these colors.
Okay, another verb.
For gray, orange,
Uh-huh.
it's going to be to say or speak because our microphone is gray and orange.
I like it. All right, and then we need a third verb, and I'm going to pick the colors for these.
Uh-huh.
So,
I think we need dance.
okay, dance. So something like, all right. So now we're going to add.
And are we going to stick with our pronouns that we had decided below?
Sure, but I was going to illustrate something slightly different.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna.
I don't do they? No, yeah, they let you split, don't they?
No, they don't. So I'm gonna have to add columns and then merge.
Ugh, that always stinks.
Do you wanna help me with this?
I would love to if you would share the document.
Oh my God, it's not anywhere.
You may need to wait before
Yeah.
turn the screen off. If you just save it to our shared.
Oh.
Oh
Huh.
shoot.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that later. OBS. We promise.
If you just save it to one of our shared folders, I can access it.
Oh crap! I just saved it, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah, click there. And then you can move it.
Where should it go? Languages? Where is it?
Yeah. And then you can just call it like color. And then when I'm in, what we're going to be doing is splitting and then merging those columns.
Just the top three.
Oh, just merging the top three. Oh, shoot. Just a second. Was that you that did that or me? Because I think I just added a present tense, but now I see you've added.
Yeah.
We now have too many. Okay.
But this.
Okay,
is,
I'm gonna wait. Did you delete the extra column or?
Oh shoot! You know what? We're actually gonna need. You know what? I'm gonna change this to that. Okay. I'm gonna delete the extra column. Okay.
Okay. And now on future tense, I'm gonna merge the top three.
Yeah. Top three.
Okay. Okay. I have merged the top three.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Eat is red and yellow. So we are going to fill this with.
Oh, you picked yellow from the list instead of from there last time.
There we go. Okay. I'm gonna just. Okay. So that's gonna go there. And that is going to go there. All right, and then that's going to be red. And that is going to be red.
So that's 8.
You know what?
Really?
I'm realizing we might need a third column. Because, here, let's do these middle ones first.
Okay.
So, gray, we haven't decided on a color for that yet, but that's fine. And then pink and black. Let's do that one. All right, so if we want to keep this, you'll notice that the future tense is not going to work for this verb. And the past tense is not going to work for this verb. This one will be fine, so we'll load that up with O. That's why we did that.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, really.
Alright, let's make this magenta. And that magenta. Yeah.
The pink was so much better.
It was. Okay. And then on this side, we can put these two in there. And so what's going to happen is that verbs that end with white, black, or orange are going to have to essentially get some sort of an allophone that is inserted before a suffix can be added.
I guess I don't understand why.
Because let me see with black.
White I understand, but black I don't understand why you can't just do the gradient there.
Oh right, this one needed to be. No, black is fine here. Shoot. Black is fine. And this one, pink is, magenta is fine. Wait. Sorry, that's fine. And so it's gray here.
And so can you go ahead and just load up gray so we can see? Oh, but you need the green to be gray.
There's no gray here.
You can. What is the RGB value?
D5.
I don't see a problem with that. Now black there would be a problem, because you're just going to see black. And white there is going to be a problem, because you're just going to see white. So
Yeah,
like
you're
black
right.
in the past tense as the beginning
Let's
and
change
white
it.
in the future.
Let's change it. Okay, we're going to change these to black and white. Okay. Now
Now
we're-
we have a problem.
Yes. White, and this one is... Okay. Now we've illustrated the problem. So it's like this verb can't be expressed in the past, this one can't be expressed in the future. So then what it makes sense to do is you add an allophone. And so what would happen is like you have rules basically. If a verb begins with black, it takes a white prefix. In the past tense, if a verb ends with white, it takes a black prefix. In the future tense.
Can you change that to that?
Yeah.
Yes. Alright.
All right. And so then this is where we need another column. Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Okay, I see what it did. And we'll need another column here. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
And then I will do future merging.
Okay.
Oops, I already did that one. Oh, and I'll start doing the past merging.
Thank you.
I'm done with the future. I've only got 2 more here. Okay, done.
All right, there we go. But basically, this is just the same thing as, like, you know, when you have, say, a suffix that's a consonant and it can't, like say the suffix is a T and for whatever reason it can't follow a T. Actually, English is the best one.
English is,
Yeah, so
exactly.
that when you have the S that can't follow an S, you have to add a little schwa, so it's not bush, it's bushes, and so on. This is basically that. Only it's based entirely on color. But yeah, if you wanted to say, I am eating an apple, then you have the question of, well, how do you separate things out? Like, would you be okay with, I want to have some more space here to do one more column. Here, I know what to do.
Okay.
Huh?
But you can shrink the table down. Changing the, you'll need the font to be smaller for it to be able to shrink, but you can also just like,
All right.
so like you'll actually have to change the font of the entire table because even though you don't have things in there, it's going to keep it at the size to make sure you can.
I thought I had, but evidently I did not.
And you should be able to
There we go.
specify what size you want the lines.
Okay. Gonna unmerge all cells. Okay. And so then, let's say something like I. And then, we're doing SVO. I'm eating.
And red, pink, cyan. Or red, magenta now because it's...
Oh my god. There. And this is just.
Okay. See, this is why you don't use white. That's why you don't use white.
I am eating apple.
And see, like, what I really want to do, you can undo this if you don't like what I just am about to do. I don't know if you can really see it. Can you see the difference? I have to get out of the table. I hate that when we share a document. Can you? Okay, there we go. So you can kind of see the difference, how there's like a border there and there's not one there. I took the border away.
Oh, okay.
So that way eat doesn't have the gray line.
Okay, so then in this case, you want to get rid of the. Oh.
Well, no, you have to do it right border by. I was just seeing if you liked it before I invested more energy in it because it's like you got to do it one at a time.
Oh, that's worth it.
And it's so slight, but it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and if you made the borders bigger, obviously you would see it better. But to give a way to say, I know that these units work together, especially in a linear language, I think that's helpful. Although, of course, like if you knew the language and you were so used to the color language, you would just get a feel for where to break things up in the same way that I could write a message to you right now with no white space at all and you would figure it out because you know
Yeah.
English and you know where to break things up. But as a non-native color speaker, I would find the borders helpful to know where to group things, and I would totally make them even bigger. And I would not use white in my color language.
Yeah. Now this wouldn't work with like braiding a rope.
No, because it would then get unlinearized.
Yeah.
And so, in the other one it would, because there's,
Yeah.
you just need the colors. But in this one, that's why I mentioned like dying or like doing set segments, because it would need to stay in some sense of order. Woo! It's a lot to like wrap a head around.
Yeah. But what do you think?
I mean, like I'm much sturdier on the concept. I still don't know that I could ever figure out how to actually like document and get it as any sort of like working unit, but at least I can start to wrap my head around it a little better.
Is it what you were hoping for, or are you disappointed in me?
I'm disappointed in the capabilities of a Pages document.
Sure.
And like one of the things I had asked David about, because he was sort of like surprised with my idea for this episode. And by surprised, I mean like he got home and I was like, hey, this is what we're recording tonight. And he was like, oh, okay. Like he didn't know until that moment. And so like one of the questions I had asked was, do you want to do it all on screen in a document, which has its merits, its obvious merits, because it's like everything's right there. You can see it all. Or do you want me to bring up paper and my bucket of markers? And like I kind of wish we had my bucket of markers here.
Yeah.
The non-linear would not have worked out with the bucket of markers, but with this, because to be able to make it smaller and to be able to put like, here's a sentence here, here's vocab here, to be able to sort of like do that on paper, I feel like we could have organized this information in ways that like it would have been prettier.
You know, if we had an Elmo.
Well, if your computer, we need to check again with the updates. If your computer would talk to my iPad, my computer does. I can actually mirror my iPad screen on my computer, which then I could have like drawn and, you know, had all the color wheels, had all the options and could have done that. And so like that could have been an option, but like I think with what we were limited by here, we did the best we could. It's just like I think you can obviously see how this table is broken in the sense that we have the generic, here's past tense, present tense, future tense, and how it's being represented, followed by 3 actual verbs, followed by a sentence all in one table. And it's like, you know, we would never normally do that. We would separate it out, but like trying to keep things on one page versus another. And then the shapes below, obviously, we had some issues with, which we could have done with a better way of doing it. But, you know, given the limitations of a Pages document, I think we did the best we could.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it met my expectations. I was not expecting to create Starry Night in a painting, but as a message.
Well, yeah. I just feel like you're disappointed in me.
I'm disappointed in Pages.
No, it's me.
No, I'm not. Let me scroll down. I'm happy. I'm kidding. I really do like this one. The one that...
It's just Apple.
Was that Apple? Yeah, okay. I really like that color combo.
It should be something other than Apple, but...
I mean, it should be, but there you have it. You're stuck with what I tossed at you when I said it, and it really should have been red, yellow, and green, but whatever. All right, so is there anything you wanted to add? I mean, like...
I want to see what red, yellow, and green looks like for an apple.
All right, and then let's make it real. Let's change it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we can have that mean something else. Oh my god, this is already amazing.
Okay, so
I want more red.
Yeah, of course. Okay, wait. No, not that. We need...
Can you drag the yellow thing actually further down the bottom, maybe? There. That does the fuzziness, not the size of it.
I see. Okay.
Oh, see, did you see the hard line when you hit the hard line?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is a really cool feature. So Pages, good job on this part, like, because it's really cool that you can do text gradient like this. that we can get these fun little shapes like this. Did you hear that?
What?
Okay, you didn't hear that. I think something fell.
Wait, was it this sound?
Oh my gosh, yes. What was that?
Oh, it's when you just remove one of these things.
Oh!
Yeah.
I thought like something very, very light fell. Okay, so there's apple.
Pretty cool.
What should the cool one be now?
Well, but we already did it up here.
I know. Okay, so we won't. We'll leave it as is. This is what should have been apple. Whatever.
Yeah, just take a look at it.
Whatever.
All right. But yeah, we'll PDF this up and put it out, right?
For our patrons,
Mhm.
this is their weekly report.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch the episode before trying to read the weekly report, or you may be confused as all get out.
Yeah. Let's see. What we got? Oh, wait, I have an idea.
No, you need to copy that pink and yellow ball.
Where's the first? That's not gonna work.
Were you trying to make them different?
Yeah.
Well, you can if you add a section, and then each section can have its own header.
There was usually a little button you could press that was first page is different, but either way.
Nice.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
Yay. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed. We hope you get something out of it, especially again for all the people who have been talking about something that's not a lingual language.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do, because if you're like me, then you may have thought, well, that sounds cool, but what? Maybe this has inspired you to think more seriously about it and decide if that's something that is good for you to explore. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, hope you all have a wonderful week. We miss you already.
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait to get back to our normal stream schedule. But until then, stay grammar.
Bye, everybody.